Hey, art historians. I would love to give you all a nice little summary video of week 5. So we are well past the halfway point of this class. You are now working on work for week 6, which has been opened, and I have also kind of went ahead and opened up a lot of week 7 as well, especially with the intention of providing you access to some of your assignments a little bit earlier because we do have some major things coming up. So before we get into that, let's just talk about the quizzes as well as your discussions, which amazing job this week. Of course, we have a lot of really interesting eras, which lends itself very well to great discussions and art analysis and all the amazing work that you've been doing. So let's take a look at quiz 8. First, I want to say that there wasn't a whole ton to really correct or clarify here. You all did so well, especially on the multiple choice questions. The one question that I thought would be good to kind of go over is the one that asked about Caspar David Friedrich's Monk by the Sea. It asked about the monk's solitary presence and what it emphasizes. So you may have been tempted to choose the response that indicated the importance of religious ceremonies. So in this case, for this particular question, the subject may mislead you with his connection to religion, but the setting indicates the struggle against nature rather than that specific religious ceremony. So I'm going to actually quote one of you here from one of your responses in the written response to quiz 9. Alex V., you said that this piece captures that idea perfectly. Of that kind of like romantic sort of sense of emotion, because the core focus of the painting is not the monk, but rather the large foreboding clouds seen in the distance. And so I really like the way, Alex, you explained how that human struggle against nature is there, and really great work on that. So now moving on to quiz 9, let's think about Paul Cézanne's The Basket of Apples. So Cezanne is actually working in the post-impressionist era, where the inclusion, like realistic detail, like we saw in realism, is not the focus here. So some of you had chosen the photographic realism and precise details, but in fact it was the innovative use of geometric shapes as well as perspective. So he's trying to show a lot of different aspects of these apples, using those planes of forms that are often common with geometric shapes being the focus. And then, of course, we have Van Gogh's Starry Night. And yes, of course, this is a rural landscape, but we are thinking about the famous aspect of this piece. And so there are many rural pieces of landscapes that have been made, but this one is most really notable from those expressive and swirling brushstrokes that the lines in the sky have. It really creates a sense of movement and wonder. And so that's why that answer would have been correct here instead of the rural landscape. And then last but not least, for quiz 9, we have George Seurat's A Sunday Afternoon on Le Grand Jet, notable for its use of pointillism, or the technique of using small dots of color. Now that's something that Seurat really pioneered and kind of perfected in his own right. And so even though some of you may have been tempted to include abstract forms and vibrant colors, bright colors are certainly used, but I wouldn't say that abstract forms are present. Realistic portrayal of urban life, that response, not really quite the focus here. It's really instead a relaxing day in the weekend. And there are no historical narratives present in the scene either, so that's why pointillism is definitely the notable aspect within this work. And for our discussion, a really amazing start with the Raft of the Medusa. Fatima, you talked about the colors, the perspective, and what looks like the setting sun, giving the impression that the viewer is suffering alongside with them, or the figures in the piece. This is a very complicated work. It's very emotional, and it depicts a very violent chapter in human history. I thought you did an amazing job of describing the scene and what makes it so emotional and heartbreaking. I do agree that I felt this empathetic sense of suffering, as if I am part of this composition with the figures on this makeshift raft formed from pieces of wood. And Samantha, you expanded a little bit further on the Raft of the Medusa. I want to give you a shout out for providing us like the play-by-play activity and social exchange that may potentially have occurred for this narrative. So of course, Samantha is kind of taking an approach here that I tend to do myself as well as an educator. It can be really good to keep things lighthearted, and that kind of, for me, makes art history a little bit more engaging in a way, especially with movements like these where we are just really digging down into the deepest depths of the emotion of the human that exists within the human experience. It can be very overwhelming and sort of like very emotionally overloading. And so I really respect your ability to kind of keep things a little bit lighter. Especially in the midst of this like really deeply horrifically unimaginable like depravity of the human experience. I mean, it is just, this piece is intense. I mean, excuse me, I've got the congestion that'll never go away. But I would say that this piece is just, wow, it really weighs heavily on you, especially the story, the way that the artist used models for his kind of arrangement. So keeping learning about art and art history a little bit lighter, maybe include some humorous elements when appropriate, I think is a really great way to approach kind of talking about these narratives. I myself usually have to spend about like a month or two teaching endless Christian-centered art historical movements, and while they are incredibly important, the church had a lot of money to give to artists to make incredibly pivotal works that change the face of art history. I do tend to get a little overwhelmed with this constant religious context that we're experiencing. So I end up referring to Jesus and his disciples as JC and the Sunshine Band, just to have a little moment of some laughter in there to ensure fun and learning. It can be a little good to be goofy and light. So great job there. Michelle, you talked a little bit about Starry Night, saying that this piece makes you feel very comfortable and peaceful. I totally agree. Thank you so much for putting words to the part of the emotion I've always felt when viewing this piece of art. I've always felt very inspired and amazed and like wondrous, but like you said, in that very comfortable and peaceful sort of way. So really awesome job putting those words to that feeling that can sometimes be a little difficult to try to represent. And then, Emily, let's conclude our discussion with the Stonebreakers. You said that some of your questions in regards to the lighting, and you wanted to know why these two figures are breaking up small rocks and where they are carrying the rocks off to. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about this. So from my research, I've come to understand that they are breaking up larger rocks into smaller usable rocks for the construction of roads and railroads. So very, very large scale projects that require a lot of material. And isn't this piece just like, oh God, it's like, it's perfect realism and it's gone forever and it makes me want to rip my hair out. I cannot believe that a work of art like this, it doesn't exist anymore. It's painful. It really is. I mean, the rocks look real with real life detail and textures. The older man and the younger boy look both real with real life details and textures. They look like the same thing. I mean, they're rocks. They will always be rocks. They will never be anything more or important and acknowledgeable in society than the rocks. These figures are stuck. They are rocks. Like, it's so perfectly poignant. It really embraces this class struggle that people are really experiencing and calling attention to. It takes a setting and it takes a characters and it makes them one. Oh, so good. It's so good. I absolutely love it. So before I conclude this video, because I've kind of been talking just a little bit about why I love art history, let's just take a really quick look about what we have coming up. So you had a writing assignment for week 5, which I did open during week 4. I had pushed it back to week 5 just because that exam was in week 4 and I didn't want to overwhelm you with work if you needed to kind of spread things out. So week 5, I'm going through those writing assignments right now. I can already say I'm really loving the way that you all are taking this assignment and responding so honestly with it. This is my second semester teaching at Lindenwood and my third class. And I have to say, folks, I know this is like the third level of our course kind of succession that we've made with our 1, 2, and 3. So, you know, maybe we've gotten the hang of things if you've taken one before, but generally speaking, I feel like you all are just digging so deep and being so frank and forthright with your analysis and your expression of your own emotions, and that takes a real sense of bravery. I mean, we are speaking to each other through a computer at best, and it doesn't have that personal connection that I usually like to get into within my in-person classes. Building those bonds with my students, I think, is one of my strengths, and so teaching from a distance does kind of hinder me that way. But I want to really just commend you all for being just so thorough, so like kind of open and willing to include such amazing detail in all of the work that you're submitting. I cannot wait to continue reading through your writing responses. I'm really enjoying them so far. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I've wrapped up all of the grades for week 5, so we are in really good shape. And now we are moving on to week 6. So for week 6, you do have another writing assignment if you choose to complete it. Keep in mind, folks, that if you've completing writing assignment 1 and 2, and you've gotten really great grades on those, you're happy with your progress, you do not need to complete writing assignment 3 and 4. If I'm not mistaken, and you might want to go back and fact check me on this, I believe that 2 out of the 4 writing assignment grades, the lowest ones, will drop. So say, for example, you got a 49 out of 50 on the first one, a 50 out of 50 on the second one. Those are fabulous grades. You do not need to complete more. If you complete another writing assignment and get a 50 out of 50, the 49 will drop. If you choose to not complete that last one, the 0 will also drop and will be factored into your grade in that way. So just double check the syllabus for me. I believe it's 2 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken. My memory's not the greatest though, so be patient with me. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that I really want to make sure everybody is aware of, because I don't want anyone to be caught in a sticky situation, but week 7, your formal writing analysis paper is due. This is a core assignment for this class. It is my impression or my understanding that across the board, every single Lindenwood class has a very core assignment that really kind of encapsulates what the focus is for this course, what skills you're working on, and the demonstration of all of those different learning materials and skills that you've developed over the course of our time together. So what that means is that you need to complete this assignment in order to pass this course. If you don't, it's impossible to. So please plan ahead. The only requirements that I have for this assignment is that you do see artwork in person. So if it is going to SLAM, make sure you schedule that ahead of time, figure out your public transportation or your rides. Carpooling is always an option. If anyone has any difficulty, I can put you in touch with other students to assist. And if you are not local to Lindenwood, like myself, you can journey to any museum that has artwork that is vaguely close to what we've been working on together throughout the course of the past, I guess, 5 weeks now. So make sure you see that art in person. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. I'm happy to provide further assistance, research into galleries and options. Being on the East Coast, it's kind of nice. I've got a lot of options. And I did get to go to the Met last week, so not to brag or anything for those who are over in Missouri, but East Coast is pretty cool. So anyway, folks, if you have any questions, let me know. You are progressing so well. It's really exciting to grade and look at all your work. Extra special shout out to our TA, Sarah. She's been doing an amazing job as well. I hope you all have been noticing her in my comments on our discussions to really get that conversation flowing, and continue to keep up the amazing work, everybody. I'll see you next week. Bye!